Ning Meng is dead, but she doesn't know how she died. She stood next to Nahi Bridge, watching the floating souls passing by one with her, without the slightest memory in her mind. The souls that drifted past her, one by one stepped on the Nahi Bridge, drank the Menpo Tang, and then set foot on the cycle of reincarnation. Ning Meng wanted to follow them too, but she couldn't take a step. In the dark, in front of her, there was an invisible wall blocking her. Ling Meng, it's useless. A ghost with incomplete 3 souls and 7 souls can't walk on the bridge of Nahi. In her mind, a voice that couldn't tell whether it was a male or a female suddenly sounded. Who are you? Ning Meng asked, looking around. The sides were all black, and no unnecessary figures were seen. If you insist on having a name, I should be the fate in the mouth of all beings. All beings are suffering, and the fate comes from the suffering. The fate comes from the Dao, and the part comes from. I passed by here and saw you. The fate between them. The voice was somewhat casual. Ning Meng, do you want to find your missing soul? After you find it, you will be a complete soul, and your lost memories will come back. What do you need me to do? Ning Meng asked. Become a system, go to accompany a person on tasks, and travel through thousands of worlds with him. Your 5 souls and 7 souls are scattered in these thousands of worlds, and you can accompany him and find what you want. Isn't it the best of both worlds? This is undoubtedly a huge temptation. Ning Meng stood there calmly and did not answer, nor did fate urge her. Until a long time later, Ning Meng said, "Okay, I agree." At the place where her words fell, a feeling of spinning around the world came. Far away from the gloomy aura of the underworld, Ning Meng felt that her figure seemed to have also changed. Ning Meng didn't know that she was no longer a human body, but turned into a fist-sized light ball, with a gentle white light exuding all over her body. As soon as she appeared, the person imprisoned in this room immediately locked his eyes firmly on her body. When she stared at those black eyes, Ning Meng's heart was shocked. A series of messy but rhythmic memories appeared in her mind. All the pictures were strange, dark, and abusive to the dark. The pictures and scenes, revolving lanterns, are like a video that is projected quickly in her mind. That was the life of a teenager in the ward. Chi Yu, fate is her chosen host. Chi Yu was originally the eldest young master of the wealthy family Chi family. When he was born, he was subtracted by his family servant. The one who stole Qiu was the maid who was invited to take care of him. The maid also had just given birth to a child, but she had to find a job because of the poverty of her family. The maid works as a nanny in Qi house and takes care of the newborn Qiu. While taking care of Qi Yu, she looked at the brilliance of the Qi family and the poverty of her family, and suddenly a bold idea came into her heart. She arbitrarily dismissed her newly born son and Qi Yu, who was also born recently. The newly born babies were all wrinkled. When Qi Yu's parents came to see him, they didn't think there was a problem. However, the maid had a guilty heart, fearing that Qi Yu would be discovered by everyone when she grew up, so she quit her job and took Qi Yu and her husband back to the countryside. At the beginning, because of guilt, the maid still treats Qi very well, but after a long time, after watching the Qi family have not found it, the maid's original guilt towards Qi gradually dissipated and was very "I miss my child." The maid's guilt towards Qi Yu gradually turned into hatred and hatred. She felt that if it were not for Qi Yu, she would not have done such a thing. The maid began to abuse Qiu. After the maid's husband returned to the village, he began to idle. He didn't know that Qiu was not his own child. Sometimes when he watched the maid secretly bullying Qiu, the husband would still protect Qiu. However, when Qiu grew bigger and weaker and sickly, the husband found Qiu's blood during a physical examination of Qiu, which was actually different from his and the maid's blood. The husband was anxious, and went back angrily to confront the maid. The maid couldn't hide it anymore, and finally couldn't help but tell what he had done back then. Thinking that the son he had raised for so many years was not his own son, the husband's attitude towards Qi Yu naturally became unhappy. Moreover, because Kyu is frail and sick, treating Kyu every month requires a lot of expenses. Families that were already thrifty have become even poorer. The maid and her husband were both very bad to Chiyu. They were locked up at home and beat and scolded. However, due to the idea of not daring to kill them, although they abused Kyu, they did not dare to abandon Kyu. Disregarded. Chiyu lived to be 12 years old under the abuse of the two. However, at this moment, the Chi family in the capital found out that Chiyu had been dropped, and came to the door. My child was dropped, and the child who had been raised for many years was not his own. This incident is actually a shameful thing to say, so Ki father and Ki mother did not expose this incident at all. After the people of the Chi family found Kyu, they gave the maid and his wife a large sum of money and brought Kyu home. However, the maid's own son, the eldest son, also continued to stay at Ki house. He told him that they were twins. However, because Chiyu's health was not good, he did not take him back to live with him. After Kyu came back, life was not good. The reason why Ki father and Ki mother took him back was only because of the life-saving blood and bone marrow in his body. What Ki father and Ki mother really like is his younger brother, Chi Hao, who is 2 years younger than him. Chi Hao was suddenly diagnosed with leukemia at the time. People in the Chi family are all precious panda blood, and the blood of relatives must be used to save lives. It was precisely because of this that they found out the packet loss between Kyu and the fake master. After Kyu was picked up, Ki father and Ki mother locked him in the room, but because of Kyu's non-cooperation, he ran away several times. In the end, although he was arrested and returned, it also took the Chi family's hard work. Since then, Chiyu has been locked up in a hospital ward opened under the name of the Chi family. It's like what Ning Meng is seeing now. In a pure white ward, apart from a bed and some medical instruments, there are no other extras in the ward. The young man in sick clothes was sitting on the bed with his knees folded, his feet were cuffed with a pair of handcuffs, and an iron chain passed through his handcuffs and was connected to a hook on the wall. 1 month later, the Chi family will perform organ transplants on Chi Yu and Chi Hao. In that operation, Chi Hao succeeded in organ transplantation and slowly recovered his health. But Chi Yu's end was sad. Not only did he lose his organs and paralyzed his whole body, but he was also thrown into the garbage dump by the Chi family. He was tortured alive, covered in maggots, and rotted all over his body. Chi Yu's gaze was firmly locked on Ning Men's body. Even if he deliberately avoided his gaze, Ning Meng could feel his gaze on himself. To be honest, Ning Meng was a little bit complicated. Chi Yu's living environment and the experience he suffered from the moment he was born made Ning Meng very sympathetic to him, but in his heart, Ning Meng did not want a person like this to be her host. Take the gloomy and dark atmosphere of Chi Yu now, he has actually been blackened, standing on the edge of ghosts and snakes. Thinking that she would be with such a person in the future, Ning Meng refused in her heart. And fate seems to know Ning Men's thoughts, and it said in Ning Men's mind, if you don't want to contract with him, then our transaction will not be achieved. It must be him. Ning Meng gritted her teeth and confirmed. Well, it must be him. Well, let him do it, I am his system, and he can never eat me. Ning Meng said as if he was willing to give up. But she didn't know that what she said now will come true in the future. Ning Meng took a deep breath, turned around, and floated in front of Chi Yu. Hello, Kyu, I am Ning Meng, a high-tech intelligent system. Would you like to make a contract with me? Shuttle through all planes to complete missions, and then you can get resurrection liquid and points. Resurrection, go back to your life that was miserable when you were a child, and reshuffle the cards. A soft voice came from the small light ball in front of you. Okay. Chi Yu opened his eyes, and just looked at it like that, without hesitation, he just responded. He had been bored in this ward a long time ago, ran away, made himself stronger, and then came back to retaliate for what they did to him. This is what Chi Yu has always wanted to do. If the small light group in front of him can help him achieve it, it doesn't matter if he exchanges everything. Ning Meng was stunned, but did not expect Chi Yu to be so easy to talk. She was in a happy mood, and even with that, her affection for Chi Yu increased a little bit. A pale white Sevayen star array lit up from under Chi Yu, and then quickly disappeared. Whether it was Ning Meng or Chi Yu, both of them felt the extra subtle connection between themselves and each other. There was a hint of joy in Ning Meng's voice. Then, the contract is established. Master host, let me introduce you first. I am your system, Ning Meng. Your future task is to accept commissions, and then go to various planes to complete the wishes of those people, and finally get relative rewards. A soft sound came from the little light group. Chi Yu raised his eyes to look at the little light group that was jumping in front of him, reaching out to grab her in the palm of his hand, but he was completely empty. He frowned. For this feeling that he couldn't control, he felt a gloomy feeling in his heart, and the aura in his body instantly darkened. After the two contracted, Ning Meng was able to feel his mood to a certain extent. Hey? Host, do you want to touch me? But I am still a soul body. When I have a body in the future, I can meet you and shake hands. Yet. Chi Yu faintly replied, and said, it's okay. Okay. Ning Meng took Chi Yu back to the system space. Entering the system space can only be the soul body. As for Chi Yu's body, after his soul entered the system space, it was already dead. In the system space, after the two entered, a light screen appeared in front of the two of them. The home page of this light screen is the task section. However, this light screen can be slid, just like the screen of a smartphone. After sliding, it is the system store and some other things. When Qiyu's future tasks are completed and points are obtained, you can come to the system mall to buy the goods you need. At the bottom of the light screen, there is Qiyu's personal account. Qiyu points, 0 resurrection liquid, 0. After the light screen appeared, the first task for Chi Yu also appeared on the light screen. The word mission is written in the center of the light screen, and then below is the content of this mission: the young master of the Li family in Nanchinch. I have a noble status and a well-earned family. I am the young master of the Li family who is flattered by everyone. I should have done a lot in my life, but I did not expect that there would be 2 obstacles in the sky, which would make my life fall from heaven. Hell, like a dog in a family, is spurned by everyone. I want them to taste the taste of falling from heaven to and being spurned and disgusted by everyone. After Ning Meng finished reading the content of the mission, she turned to look to Chi Yu to the side. Chi Yu has a long body like jade, a tall nose, exquisite features, and fair skin. Looking at his face up close, there is no trace of flaws. His black eyes are as deep as obsidian, staring at the information on the screen above intently. It's like a protagonist walking out of a comic. It's just that the protagonist's experience is not as perfect and dreamy as the comics, and it is even very miserable. After reading it, Chi Yu retracted his gaze and said to Ning Meng, "You can go on the mission." "Okay." Ning Meng turned on the task switch. Then the white light flashed, and one ball disappeared from the system space. After a sensation of spinning around the world, Ning Meng opened her eyes, and everything she saw was furry. She moved, got up, and looked up around. On the opposite floor-to-ceiling window, a chubby and furry Scottish fold cat was reflected, with round eyes staring at her dumbly. Ning Meng. Dare to be nice to her and give her a human body to enjoy. The cream-white kitten, a small ball, with a pair of sky-blue eyes open, looked down at the ground, then raised its front paws, placed it carefully on the ground, and took a gentle step on the back heel. Although she was walking slowly, she was trying to adapt. Suddenly, one hand pinched the back of her neck and lifted her straight up. Meow! Ning Meng screamed in shock, and then saw a handsome face with a strange appearance, but the calm and deepness in those black eyes was familiar to her. "I'm so stupid," Chi Yu said, lifting Ning Meng up and holding it in his palm. This time the mission world is the modern plane. The identity that Kia crossed over was the client of the next task, the young master of Nanchinj Li's family. The Li family dominates in Nanchinj, which is the local snake in Nanchinj. 70% of Nanchinj's business is run by the Li family. The young master's name is Li Baran, who is the son of Li Cheng and his former wife, the current owner of the Li family. Li Baran was spoiled and raised since he was a child. Although he also eats, drinks and has fun like the other rich second generations, Li Baran is equally hard-working in his studies and is a schoolmaster. Mrs. Li gave birth to a son like him. Everyone said that Li Baran was the next generation successor of the Li family, and even Li Baran himself thought so. However, until Li Baran's sophomore year in high school, Mrs. Li died of illness. 3 months after Mrs. Li died, Li Cheng couldn't wait to marry another woman, Yang Yi. What surprised everyone was that Li Cheng second married a woman who had no relationship background, and this woman actually had 2 children with him. Yang Yi brought 2 children, a man and a woman. The man was 1 year older than Li Baran, named Li Hujia. The girl is 3 years younger than Li Baran and her name is Li Yuer. As soon as the 3 of them entered the door, Li Baran's sense of crisis suddenly rose. Especially, when looking at Li Cheng, who has always been free from words and smiles when facing him, when facing their 3 mothers and sons, the gentle expression on his face became more and more gentle. Li Baran secretly took the hairs of Li Hujia and Li Yuer to the hospital for identification. The identification results showed that 99% of the 3 were relatives. This conclusion made Li Baran immediately bewildered. What does this mean? Before he was born, Li Cheng had already taken care of Yang Yi, and Yang Yi gave birth to a son for Li Cheng. Li Cheng's image of a benevolent father in Li Baran's heart collapsed instantly. Every time he came back, he saw Li Cheng treat Yang Yi and the others extremely tenderly and caringly, making Li Baran feel that he was an outsider time and time again. Yang Yi willing to be Li Cheng's mistress for more than 20 years is enough to see that she is a very shrewd woman. Li Baran, a young and energetic young man, was not her opponent at all. There were more and more quarrels between Li Baran and Li Cheng. In the end, Li Baran was forced to live outside by himself, and Li Cheng didn't care about his life or death at all, and put all his minds on him. He has been admitted to the first-class management in the country. Li Hujia from the university even took Li Hujia into the Li family company for internship. Li Baran asked a friend to go out for a drink to relieve boredom and stayed drunk. When he woke up, he was facing the crying and bruised girl under him. He was dizzy and dizzy. Before he could figure out what was going on, the door was forcibly opened by the police from the outside. The police found the existence of dew products from the water and wine on the table, and many reporters heard the news. Come, take a picture after a night of madness in the room. This matter is that the evidence is solid, and there is no room for Li Baran to justify. He was sent to the police station, and all the reports covered were the news that he was taken away by the police in the chaos that night. It is ridiculous that after learning all this, Li Cheng didn't even look at him. He directly issued an announcement saying that he had severed the relationship between father and son. Li Baran was young and energetic, unable to accept this sudden change, and committed suicide in prison. After sleeping until he woke up naturally, Chi Yu looked at the bright sky outside and went to the kitchen to make some food for himself and Ning Meng. Chi Yu passed through Li Baran's body, but Ning Meng appeared directly, not the cat raised by Li Baran's family. Her existence can be regarded as a bug in this world. There is no cat food at home, and Li Baran never cooks by himself. The refrigerator in the kitchen is empty, and the kitchen is completely clean, without any smell of fireworks. Chi Yu changed clothes and went out holding Ning Meng. He first took Ning Meng to the pet shop to select cat food and dried fish. The teenager was wearing an ordinary white shirt and jeans, with a slender figure, exquisite features, a cold look, and a clean breath. What is inconsistent with his cold and alien temperament is that he is actually holding an off-white Scottish fold cat in his arms. Originally, his own outstanding appearance and temperament were enough to attract the eyes of passers-by. At this moment, he was walking on the street with a cat in his arms. This harmonious scene made some young girls almost uncontrollable, wanting to scream loudly. Chi Yu turned a blind eye to the gazes of passers-by. After buying cat food and dried fish, he carried things and carried Ning Meng to a Chinese restaurant. Chi Yu asked for a separate box. After ordering the dishes, while waiting for the dishes, Chi Yu opened a package of dried fish that he had just bought, and several dried fish fell into his palm. Although Ning Meng has no memory, she knows she is a person anyway. Although she is now crossing into the body of a cat, she wants her to eat cat food and dried fish like a cat. Ning Meng said that her heart is rejected. But her refusal heart is no match for her honest body. Almost the dried fish was opened, and when she smelled the dried fish, Ning Meng felt that she couldn't control it. She flicked her tail, raised her head and yelled 3 times. Eat! Chi Yu handed the dried fish in the palm of her hand to her. Ning Meng bowed her head instinctively, sticking out her pink and tender tongue, and rolled one of the dried fish into her mouth. Meow! The kitten gave a happy cry and couldn't stop eating. The kitten has a small body and a small stomach capacity. After Ning Meng eats a few slices, he feels a little full. She stretched out her tongue and licked her own mouth. She squinted her eyes halfway, rubbed Chi Yu's palm, and then lowered her head to lick her fur. It wasn't until a while later that Ning Meng reflected what she had done. Her eyes widened and her body stiffened. Even if she instinctively wanted to continue licking the fur, she still twisted her head forcibly. The door of the room was knocked twice from the outside, and then the waiter who served the dishes walked in and put the dishes ordered by Chi Yu on the table one by one. Ning Meng put Chi Yu on the seat, and after he went to wash his hands, he began to eat. After eating, Ning Meng lay on the soft seat without any problems. The cat's instincts made her lick the fur. Ning Meng had to divert her attention and focus on Chi Yu. Because it was eaten by himself, Chi Yu only ordered 3 dishes. The chefs of this restaurant have excellent craftsmanship. The 3 simple home-cooked dishes are fried so that they are delicious, and appealing. Ning Meng said with some envy, "It's great to be a human being. If the next task is to make me a human, it would be great." Hey! Chi Yu uttered a monophonic word. "This way you can eat a lot of delicious things," Ning Meng said ambitiously, and the round cat pupil stared at the 3 dishes on the table without blinking. Chi Yu stretched out his hand and squeezed her without speaking. Ning Meng lay on the sofa, thinking about her 3 souls and 7 souls who still don't know where she is still floating. Her face is unlovable. Until a string of loud bells broke the quiet atmosphere in the box. Chi Yu took out his mobile phone from his arms, and Ning Meng stood up vigorously, leaned on his lap, leaning on his furry head, and saw the call reminder that it was a call from a person named Tian Le. Tian Le, like Li Baran, is also a dude. He usually calls Li Baran out for a drink. He looks like a good brother. At that time, he was bought by Li Hejia, drugged Li Baran's glass, and finally provided false testimony in front of the police officer, saying that Li Baran was taking drugs and that he was the one who killed the girl. An hour later, the teenager holding the cat walked out of the room unharmed. His expression was cold, and his body exuded a noble temperament that was incompatible with this place. He walked down the corridor and frequently caused the waiter next to him to look at him. The 2 waiters who passed by him inadvertently glanced inside when passing by the box. At the beginning, the 2 of them hadn't noticed it, but after they reacted, their expressions changed and they immediately retreated. "Go back and run into the box." In the box, on the sofa on the ground, there were some people lying all around. All of them were confused, their faces flushed, and there were even 2 lying on the ground foaming at their mouths. Obviously, this can no longer be described by drinking high. It was a big deal. The 2 waiters turned pale, and immediately called the club manager. So, 15 minutes later, an ambulance stopped in front of the clubhouse. Chi Yu didn't care about the life and death of those people in Tianle. Although these people are all children of the rich family, they are only the second generation of the rich, and they are far from the Li family. On the one hand, those people were fawning on Li Baran because of Li Baran's status, but at the same time they were bought by Li Hujia to frame Li Baran, even giving false testimony. What Chi Yu did today was nothing more than a small interest. As long as nothing major happens, the Li family will suppress their noise. Chi Yu went back to sleep comfortably holding Ning Meng, and was woken up by a phone call the next day. The phone call was from his physical grandfather, saying that Li's family would hold a banquet next week and let him go back to show up. It is the summer vacation, and Li Hujia has been admitted to a well-known first-class university in China this time. This banquet, on the one hand, is to celebrate his outstanding studies, on the other hand, Li Cheng wants to announce on the spot that Li Hujia is the heir of the Li group. Chi Yu agreed to Father Li's request on the phone, and after hanging up, Chi Yu left the phone at will. When Li Baran knew about it at the time, there was a riot at the banquet. Finally, Li Cheng personally asked the security guard to throw him out of Li's house in full view, and he lost his face. Because of this incident, Li Baran would go out to drink with Tianle and the others all day, and was finally designed to take drugs. The girl went to jail and then committed suicide. But now, there is a sneer on Chi Yu's face. Since he has taken over Li Baran's task and body, he has to let Li Hujia pay for some of Li Baran's previous tasks. The Li family's banquet will be next Tuesday, and there are still 5 days left. Chi Yu quickly began to prepare the surprise he was going to give to the Li family that day. As soon as time turned, it was Tuesday, and the people from Li's family sent a driver to pick up Qiu. Chi Yu was wearing a formal suit, holding Ning Meng in his arms, and got into the car. Because he is the Li family, even if the guard doesn't know Chi Yu after the change, but he also knows the car, he doesn't need an invitation at all, and just let him go. Chi Yu's gaze fell out of the window. A delicate-looking young boy took a look at the guard with the invitation in his hand, and then was let in. "Master, here we are." The driver parked the car in the parking lot, got out of the car and opened the door of Qiu's seat. Chi Yu came out of the car holding Ning Meng. It was not too early or too late for him to come, but at this time there were also many guests who had just got out of the car. Everyone looked at the young man wearing a suit and holding a cat in his arms. For a moment, the minds of several rich ladies were even blank. They didn't recover until the slender figure of the man disappeared into the video. "Come." Someone asked, "Mom, who is that person just now?" "I don't know it, it's so facetofus, it should be the guest who came to the party this time." The status of the Li family in S city is equivalent to a local snake. This time the banquet was held, and there were countless people who came to the banquet. Although Li Baran doesn't like dyeing his hair, his style of dressing is often unconventional. His eyesight is so low as to be sure. He always likes to wear colorful and green. Every time he appeared in the crowd, everyone just watched his clothes go, where they remembered what he looked like. And in the past 2 years, since moving out, Li Baran has rarely come back. Only during the Chinese New Year, he will come back to check it out. If you show up in front of people, it's even more impossible. Therefore, when Chi Yu, whose temperament and clothing is completely renewed, comes in with Ning Meng, let alone the guests who noticed him at the banquet can't recognize who he is, even the servants in the villa don't recognize him. He came out as the second youngest member of the Li family who moved out to live. In Li Baran's mission, although Chi Yu was asked to help him regain everything he had lost, Chi Yu didn't want to go to Li Cheng and Old Man Li to make good impressions. Therefore, after entering the hall, Chi Yu didn't say hello alone, holding Ning Meng and walking to an inconspicuous corner sofa to sit on. His excellent appearance and the temperament that he is different from his peers, although he will attract the attention of successful people, but he will not always focus on him. And the only people who kept their eyes on him were the rich ladies who came to the banquet with their parents. Chi Yu sat on the sofa, placed Ning Meng on his thigh and stroked it gently. His original cold expression was completely softened at the moment, his expression focused. Ning Meng raised her head curiously, and after looking at the things that were not worth noting at the banquet, she lay down on Chi Yu's thigh, and became dizzy in his gentle touch. Only those hairy ears trembled from time to time. A rich lady came forward gracefully, wanting to talk to Chi Yu. Seeing that he kept his eyes on the kitten, he asked shyly, "Hey, do you like full-deer cats too? I always wanted to keep one before. I don't know where you bought this cat. Does it look so cute?" As soon as she finished speaking, Chi Yu, who was gentle with the cat, looked up at her, expressionless. His dark eyes fell on her. It was clear that the other party hadn't spoken yet, but the rich lady was confronting Chi Yu. When he saw it for less than 2 seconds, he turned his head in embarrassment and walked away quickly. "Hey, Nana, how is it?" The sisters who had been watching her next asked her. Thinking of the scene just like being slapped in the face, the girl named Nana turned into anger and said with disgust, "What, she looks so good looking, she is actually a dumb." "Ah, no!" another girl exclaimed next to her. After Nana said that sentence impulsively, she regretted it in her heart. She quickly changed the subject and said, "What can't be, let's go over and take a look. I heard my mother say that the Li family is hosting this time. At the banquet, the most important thing is to announce the next heir." "Girl A, hey? It's not Li Das Hao? Last time, my mother used his business to tell my brother that he had joined the company to help when he didn't graduate from high school." "Girl B, yes, he just graduated from high school, he is not old, and he was admitted to Nankai University. I heard that he studied management. Most importantly, I heard that others are super handsome." These girls' comments were so cute. She just raised her furry head and looked at her host's handsome and exquisite face, thinking in her heart, the host is so good looking, but she must not be abducted.